Leonardo da Vinci. Born on 15 April 1452, Leonardo da Vinci was an Italian painter, scientist, architect, mathematician, engineer, geologist, botanist, anatomist, and a lot more. He was the archetype of the great men of the Renaissance, insatiably curious and a genius by birth. He had made inventions in almost all the fields of science, medicine, and art. He was an extraordinary artist who created masterpieces like the Baptism of Christ, the Madonna of the Carnation, Annunciation, the Last Supper, the legendary Mona Lisa, and many more. Leonardo also made path-breaking contributions in science and engineering. Most of his works are in mirror image cursive. He was a master of topographic anatomy and created the drawings of muscles, tendons, and other parts of the body. He made the observations of the mechanical movements of the human skeleton, the fundamental concepts of biomechanics. He created the drawings of helicopters, hydraulic pumps, reversible crank mechanisms, all of which were unknown concepts in the 16th century. Da Vinci was a genius par excellence, a legend beyond comparison. He passed away on 2nd May 1519. Alan D Blumlain. Alan D Blumlain was born in Hampstead in London on 29 June 1903. He was born to German parents of Jewish descent. He was a famous British electronics engineer who was known for his important inventions of sound recording, telecommunication, radar, and most importantly, stereo. He was a noteworthy engineer and inventor of his time, who alone had 128 patents during his time. In 1931, he invented the stereophonic sound, which was also known as binaural sound. He became a famous name for this invention of his. In the earlier inventions, the sound recording system had only a single speaker, which was very disconcerting. The genesis of his idea of making a stereo, though, was very uncertain at the beginning, but he was given patent under the title of Improvements in and relating to sound transmission, sound recording, and sound reproducing system. Some of the features of the stereo designed by him at that time are still in use today. He passed away on 7 June 1942. Alan Turing. Alan Turing was a mathematician, logician, cryptanalyst, and is considered as the pioneer of computer science. He introduced the concepts of algorithms and computation, paving the way for the modern digital computer. He is noted for the discovery of Turing machine, which was able to simulate the logic of any computer algorithm. Turing studied mathematics at King's College in Cambridge, where he received the Smith's Prize for his research in the field of probability and the Gaussian error function. During the Second World War, Turing worked for government court and cipher school, where he was instrumental in decoding German codes by an electromechanical machine named Pombi. After the war, Turing contributed in the designing of the first stored program computer ACE. Later, he joined the Max Newman's computing laboratory and assisted in the designing of the Manchester computers. Alan Turing is considered as the father of artificial intelligence. He computed the algorithm for testing artificial intelligence called the Turing test. Alan Turing was elected Fellow of the Royal Society in 1951. Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein is highly recognized for his exceptional contribution in diverse inventions. This great man with brilliant scientific intellect came to the world on 14th March 1879 in Germany. He derived immense fame, being a supreme physicist till date. He gave many eminent theories and discoveries in the major scientific fields, which are namely gravity, time, energy and light. Among the various contributions made by him, Brownian motion ranks first, where he offered predictions based on statistics which explained the theory of distribution and the movement of particles in solution. He also obtained massive popularity for his special theory of relativity, for which he was awarded the Nobel Prize. He even worked on the basic and essential strata of science like photons and thermodynamics. The year 1916 was marked as the year of Einstein, as he had coined the general theory of relativity, which was related to the extensive effect of gravitational force. He also invented the law of photoelectric effect with the help of his general theory of relativity in 1921. Alexander Berezniak. Alexander Berezniak was born on 29 December 1912. He was a Soviet aircraft plus designer of missiles. From March 1957, he was the main architect of the MKB. His birth took place in Boyarkino, Ozersky Territory, Moscow region. He was technical science doctor plus also an honored worker. in RSFSR. In 1932, he also became fellow member of CPSU. Since 1931, he had been hired in the aviation industries. He was hired by Moscow Aviation Institute, which is named after Ordzhonikidze. In experimental design office of the V.F. Bolkovitinov, he was the engineer. He planned the first Soviet jet during working in that office, the BI-1, that was equipped with the liquid fuel for powering the rocket engine. In joint operation accompanying A.M. Isaev in 1942, BI-1 was created. In 1946, he became Vice Chief Architect of OKB-2. Thereafter, he became Chief Designer in year 1957. He was afterward awarded with Lenin Prize, the Order of Lenin, the USSR State Prize, and numerous medals. In the year 1974, at age of 62, he died in Dubna. Abu Rayhan AlBiruni. Abu Rayhan AlBiruni has come up as the greatest and most famous scholar in the Islamic and Muslim community in the year 973. He was a mathematician and an astrologer in natural science. He distinguished himself as a historian, chronologist, plus linguist as well rather than an inventor. Being the historic, he knew many languages apart from his native languages as well. In 1017, he travelled the first time to India. After that, he had become the main person of the interpreter of India and Islamic world. That is why he was known as an inventor. He had also acquired a title by the name of the founder of Indology, which means a corporation between India and other Islamic countries. He was also a writer for the customs and creeds of various nations. He also did some contribution to the earth sciences. He was named Father of Geodesy, which is again collaboration between the two geographically different countries. Alexander Graham Bell. Alexander Graham Bell is one of the most popular scientists in the world that ever we had because of his practice only. We are talking now on the telephone. He invented the first practical telephone. He was not only a scientist but also an inventor, engineer and innovator. He was born on 3rd March 1847 in Scotland. The invention of the telephone was patented in 1876 by the US government. After the great invention of the telephone, Bell did not stop there. He invented so many things, including groundbreaking work in optical telecommunication, hydrofoils, and aeronautics. In 1888, he became one of the most talented origin members of the National Geographic Society. Graham Bell showed so much curiosity for the world and its things. He started experiments at his early stage of life with his neighbor friend. Graham Bell died because of diabetes on 2nd August 1922. Although he could not complete his degree in the youth, yet later many universities gave him many honorary degrees. Alexandre LxCF. Alexandre LxCF was a famous inventor who worked in the print screen that was used in the making of films. The film shots usually use a whiteboard, which is known as print screen. He used extraordinary blackboard in his films. The length that was possessed by this board is nearly 3 to 4 feet. This means that about millions of pins are easily headed on that board. After the complete covering the board with the pins, entire black surface appears in the front. Hence, in this way, many protocols are needed to be followed for making blackboards with pin screen. He made the first and foremost important protocol that consisted of perforated kind of grid where pins get easily inserted. He was also famous for the screen pictures that were made by him because he never drew sketches and worked directly on the pin screen board for his drawings. He perceived pictures on both sides of the screen. Alfred Bernhard Nobel. Alfred Bernhard Nobel was born in Sweden. Son of an engineer, he had spent a considerable time studying chemistry in Paris and working in the USA. He is best known for producing dynamite, which is believed to be a safe, manageable, and controllable form of nitroglycerin. He started producing the same in his own established factory, until his brother was killed there in an explosion in 1864. After being deeply shocked, he came up with a safer explosive called gelignite, which was again an important invention. Later on, he invented a form of smokeless power called pellistite, steel for armor plating, and artificial gutta-percha. He is also famous for obtaining oil from Azerbaijan. Before he died, he expressed the wish to let his money and fortune to be used for offering the yearly Nobel Prizes in various fields such as literature, physics, chemistry, medicine, peace and economics. Amy Argand. Amy Argand was a Swiss physicist and a chemist who invented the Argand lamp, which was a huge success on the usual oil lamp. Fascinated by the amplitude of science, he became an apprentice of Benedict de Saussure, a renowned meteorologist and a botanist. He began his invention in the 1780s when he was a teacher in chemistry. His idea was to develop a lamp which could overcome the drawbacks of the traditional ones. A series of experiments led to the prominent discovery of what we now know as the Argand lamp. Later in 1783, he was thrilled by the idea of hot air balloons, which was originally a thought of Etienne Montgolfier. The invention of the lamp was not so easy. After a huge series of experiments and partnerships of many other significant people, he was finally able to manufacture his lamp. It was in 1784 that he received a patent for his discovery. The design and the usability of the lamp was so good that people were highly demanding for this product. Anatoly Alexandrov. Anatoly Alexandrov was known as a sportsperson and also an inventor. He had been an academician in the university at director's post for a long period of time. He was a Russian Soviet and became the third known decorator at the end of his life. Earlier, after his graduation, he was famous during World War II because of the method on demagnetizing ships, with collaboration with the Russians to defend them from the Germans. This method proved to be effective because the way it was devised by Anatoly was remarkable. Almost everyone at the end of World War II used this to be a safeguard. His invention led to the development of the nuclear reactor. The way he used it was similar to the way exploded in Ukraine in 1986. Other scientists in this field did not get satisfied by the safety measures of this nuclear reactor. But being a big man, he kept on working on it and introduced a nuclear fleet. Andrew Alford. Radio, as we know it today, is mostly because of the famous invention of antennas for radio navigation systems by Andrew Alford. This invention helps individual FM stations to broadcast simultaneously from one source to others. Andrew Alford was born in Samara, Russia on 5th August 1904. He was a graduate from the University of California in 1924. He also received the honorary title of DS from Ohio University in 1975. He was an employee of Harvard University Radio Research Lab from 1943 to 1945, where he was the division head of Direction Finder and Antenna Division from 1943 to 1945. He was also head of Air Navigation Lab, International Telegraph Development Corporation. He did engineering work for Fox Film Corporation. He was also on the Sound Lab staff at California Institute of Technology. He later founded the Alford Manufacturing Company. He died on 25th January 1992. Anthony R Barringer. Anthony R Barringer was born on 20th October 1925. He was a geophysicist by profession. He had unmatched contribution in the field of mineral exploration technology. He was well known for the development of induced pulse transient or input electromagnetic system. Along with this, he also invented an instrument which is useful as a portable ground electromagnetic system. This milestone discovery has proved to be valuable as it locates billion-dollar useful ore deposits. Anthony R. Barringer made many other discoveries, such as the laser-induced fluorescent space system. It has a prime importance in oil and gas exploration and had also been short-named as fluoroscan. Correlation spectrometer is another brilliant discovery by this person. It had been very useful to measure dispersion of various gases in the atmosphere. NASA, to measure the worldwide distribution of carbon dioxide, also uses an infrared remote sensor, which has been designed by this genius. He had presented more than 80 technical papers in this field. 2 very low frequency airborne conductivity mapping system and a number of particulate analyzers add up to his contribution. He died on 15th August 2009. Alfred Kinsey. Kinsey became a household name in the 1950s for his research on the sexual modes of American women and men. Kinsey was born in Hoboken, New Jersey on 23rd June 1894. His father, Alfred, taught at the Stevens Institute of Technology, despite having only an 8th grade education. Kinsey was a sickly child, plagued by rheumatic fever, rickets, and typhoid. His parents were strict and deeply religious, rejecting many of life's aesthetic pleasures. After high school, Kinsey considered a career in the natural sciences, but his father wanted him to train as an engineer. He obligingly enrolled at the Stevens Institute and studied mechanical engineering for 2 years. In 1916, Kinsey received a scholarship from Harvard University and began his postgraduate work at the Bussey Institution. His 2 major texts, Sexual Behavior in the Human Male and Sexual Behavior in the Human Female, broke new ground in the field of sex research and led to more open and honest investigations of sexual practices. Throughout his career, regardless of the subject, Kinsey remained inquisitive and scientifically high-minded. He passed away on 25th August 1956. Alexander Fleming. Sir Alexander Fleming was born at Lockfield near Darwin in Ayrshire, Scotland on 6 August 1881. He attended Loudon Moor School, Darwin School and Kilmarnock Academy before moving to London, where he attended the Polytechnic. He spent 4 years in a shipping office before entering St. Mary's Medical School, London University. He qualified with distinction in 1906 and began research at St. Mary's under Sir Ambrose Wright, a pioneer in vaccine therapy. Alexander Fleming was a Scottish bacteriologist, famous for his discovery of penicillin. Fleming grew up on a farm. As a young man, he served in World War I in the Medical Corps, giving him an opportunity to witness the deaths of many soldiers from infected wounds. After the war, he accidentally discovered antibiotics. In 1945, he was co-awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. In 1928, while working on influenza virus, he observed that mold had developed accidentally on a Staphylococcus culture plate, and that the mold had created a bacteria-free circle around itself. He was inspired to further experiment, and he found that a mold culture prevented growth of staphylococci even when diluted 800 times. He named the active substance penicillin. He died on 11th March 1955. Arnold O Beckman. Arnold O Beckman was born on 18th May 1900 in the US. He got his bachelor's degree from the University of Illinois in the year 1922 in chemical engineering. He also earned his master's degree in the year 1923 in physical chemistry from there. He got selected in the Gamma Alpha Graduate Scientific Fraternity in the year 1922, and then he got associated to the Delta Upsilon Fraternity. Actually, he was an American chemist. The Beckman Institute, created by him, was based on his invention of pH meter in the year 1934. pH meter is used to compute the acidity. Beckman was always very much interested in measuring instruments, and thus was very famous in his department of chemistry. The pH meter is counted as one of the best instruments used to find out the acidity level of a solution. It is also known as the acid meter. On 18th May 2004, Beckman left this world, but left his footmarks in the world of science. Barbara Atkins. Barbara Atkins is credited with the invention of a new and better method of developing films. She was a teacher when she started her career. After completing her education, she went to work for NASA, where she was given the task of inventing a way to improve astronomical photos taken from space. Her invention engrossed the use of radioactive materials to enhance negatives, which could also be used to enlarge images even after developing the pictures. Her method of developing films was applied by NASA with grand success. Her invention was so attractive that it was accepted outside of the agency for a variety of other uses also, such as improving the clarity of X-rays and reinstating old photographs. She was honored as the National Inventor of the Year in 1978. for her invention of a new way of developing films. Bishang. Bishang had been the discoverer of the first recognized movable type technology. His system was built of Chinese porcelain. Throughout the dominate of the Qingli, he built the movable type. His technique was, he chose sticky clay and cut in them characters which was as thinly as the boundary of a surface of coins. Every character shaped as if of one kind. Bishang, for making them, had baked them into fire. Antecedentally, he had made iron plate and enclosed plate through a mix of pine rosin, paper ashes and wax. Whenever he wished for printing, picked up the iron frame and set it on the plate of the iron. While the frame was full, it altogether made one solid block of the type. After that, he placed it near fire for warming it. While characters were not utilized, he arranged them with the paper labels and kept them in the case of wood. Bruno Abakanovic. Bruno Abakanovic was a mathematician, a great inventor, and later an electrical engineer. He was very well known for the integrator that was invented in 1880. In his other patents of works, the electrical bell is known after he had worked on it and invented the most newly designed. He is also known as a mathematician because of his several works that are published on statistic and scientific works as well, that include the description of his intergraph. Later on, after he had settled in France, the government of France hired him as an electrical expert and a main engineer behind the other cities of France. After working long enough to the retirement, he went to a small island in the early 90s of the 18th century for nearly 4 years. However, his working era was not yet completed. He still noticed point in the Amiga culture and guided many of his students who were artists and scientists. Bartolomeo Cristofori di Francesco. Bartolomeo Cristofori di Francesco was known as the inventor of the very famous musical instrument known as piano. He was born in Padua in the Republic of Venice. He was the Italian maker. Bartolomeo was appointed as the musical technician for Prince Ferdinando de' Medici. He was the great innovator in the area of musical instruments. Bartolomeo appointed 2 assistants so that they might help him when he was in workshop. During the 17th century, he invented 2 other keyboard instruments besides the piano, but they had been kept by the Prince Ferdinando. That time, many documents said that Bartolomeo was not the actual inventor of the piano, but the reality was different. Although the designs were already published in many documents, yet they were different. After all the controversies, Bartolomeo completed the design and started work on the design. After some time, he succeeded. Now, only 3 pianos of Bartolomeo live on today. C.V. Raman. The eminent Indian scientist C.V. Raman was born 7th November 1888, who received Nobel Prize for Physics in 1930 for his work Scattering of Light, also known as Raman effect. Once, when he was measuring the angle of prism with the help of spectrometer, he observed some diffraction bands. This observation fired his imagination. He investigated this phenomena and first published its result in the Philosophical Magazine in 1906. He further gave the note on the new experimental method for measuring the surface tension. It was indeed a spectacular achievement for a person of his age and maturity. His work on the study of crystal structure is of utmost importance. He was also awarded Lenin Prize in December 1957. Raman Research Institute was also established by him. He died on 21st November 1970. Charles Babbage. To call the great Charles Babbage father of the computer would not be really justified. He was a great English-born philosopher, mathematician, mechanical engineer, and an inventor who changed the way people used to compute things by the 19th century. His first mechanical computer was a simple device, which was named as difference engine and was made in parts, which were later assembled by his son after his death. At that time, he called it difference engine that was about 8 feet tall and weighed good 15 tons. For his efforts that led to the invention of an engine that could be used for calculating astronomical and mathematical tables, he was awarded with Gold Medal of the Royal Astronomical Society in 1824. His achievements were many, but those all made him the man we know as the person who showed the world a new direction. A direction that has totally changed the world of today. Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin is regarded as a distinguished figure in history and was known for his exceptional scientific discoveries. Darwin was born in 12th February 1809 in Shrewsbury, England. He was deeply interested in the subject of taxonomy, which implied the classification of living things and marine surroundings. The 5-year voyage throughout the globe on a ship called HMS Beagle is considered as the most striking event in Darwin's life. During the voyage, Darwin had inculcated thorough knowledge about the geological areas he visited and had even amassed the numerous assortment of the natural historical specimen. This remarkable voyage was perhaps the principal inspiration that aided him to coin the later ideas. Darwin is well renowned for proposing the theory of evolution, which was accepted on a global basis. This great personality had discovered a natural law, which mentions that life has come into existence on the basis of the force of natural selection. He also coined the phrasal words, survival of the fittest. He died on 19th April 1882. Corradino di Ascanio. Corradino di Ascanio was born on 1st February 1891 at Popoli in Pescara. He was an Italian aeronautical engineer. He designed the first innovation helicopter for the Augusta. The first motor scooter was also designed by him for Ferdinando Innocent. Ferdinando Innocent gave him responsibility to design the scooter that was easy to drive for both men and women. From the childhood, he was very passionate about the flights and their designs. So he took the chance to build some special things that could fly. He started the work on flight designs. Around 1965, he was awarded with the Order of Merit of the Italian Republic by the President of the Italian Republic. This was for his good services to Italy. For all time frustrated by the fact he was openly recognized for his links by the Vespa motor scooter, more than his developments and patents in the world of aviation. He died in Pisa on 6 August 1981. Clarence Birds Eye. Clarence Birds Eye, an American naturalist, is the originator of the science behind frozen foods. His interest in the food industry began during 1912 to 1915, while he was conducting a field study in Labrador. Birds Eye came up with the idea to freeze seafood at a very low temperature. When he found that seafood in Labrador remained very fresh at -40 degrees Celsius. In 1922, after experimenting his idea at Clothil Refrigerating Company, he founded Birds Eye Seafoods Inc. to refrigerate fish fillets at -43 degrees Celsius. In 1925, he started General Seafood Corporation, which promoted packaged and canned seafood. During this period, he invented the double belt freezer, which utilized belts made of stainless steel to freeze the fish instantly. Birds Eye sold all his patents and General Seafood Corporation to Goldman Sachs and the Postum Company, which came up with Birds Eye Frozen Food Company to distribute frozen foods like fish, vegetables, etc. in the market using the Birds Eye technology. The Birds Eye brand continues to remain at the pinnacle of the frozen food industry even today. Chester Carlson. Seattle-born Chester Carlson excelled in two fields of electrophotography and xerography. Since early childhood, he started printing and duplication newspapers and did not like the traditional methods of duplicating writing when he was working in a printing press. In New York, he was made patent attorney. Chester Carlson saw long years of failure before he got noticed by Battelle, who funded him for research and contacted several companies who were then researching on the dry duplication of papers. It was then, in the year 1948, that electrophotography was changed to xerography. The photographic paper manufacturer, Haloid, was convinced by Battelle, for which a commercial xerography machine was made in 1948. Years after Xerox was made public, the Haloids manufactured the first modern photocopier called Xerox 914. After Carlson had died in 1968, it was years after his death that he was introduced in National Inventors Hall of Fame. The United States government selected 22nd October 1988 as the recognition day for Chester Carlson's Day. Charles Mackintosh. Charles Mackintosh was the inventor of the waterproof raincoat made from a fabric that was rubberized. It was in 1824 that it was first sold with an abbreviated MAC or MAC on it. Even the raincoat was named after Charles Mackintosh, who was a Scottish. Material made from laminated rubber or in a rubberized form is used in the making of a genuine Macintosh. In the year 1823, a waterproof cloth was used to make the coats at the Charles Mackintosh and Co., the textile factory of the family. However, later on, a merger of this textile company took place with the Manchester-based Thomas Hancock Company. Since the year 1819, a fabric that is rubber-coated was experimented on, developed and distributed all over UK. The coats were also supplied to the police, railways and the army in the UK. The fabric is now greatly improved to deal with melting and stiffness issues. Dunlop Rubber took over the company in 1925. The manufacturing of waterproof Macintosh clothing continues till today. Cornelis Jacob Zoon Drebel. Cornelis Jacob Zoon Drebel was born on 1572 at Alkmaar in Holland and died on 7th November 1633. But in this period of time, he did so many things. He was the Dutch builder who made the first navigable submarine in 1620. He was an innovator who contributed the growth of measurements and control systems, optics and chemistry. Whoever went to see the submarine, he could briefly see his submarine in the film The Four Musketeers. He assumed as a passionate inventor alike to Q in the James Bond series. The most important fact is that his submarine plays a role in the comic. Drebel also planned and built the telescope and the microscope and also associated in many projects. One invention made him famous in 1621, and the invention was the microscope with two convex lenses. Although he invented the submarine, yet his submarine was never used in any combat due to less features. Cai Lun. Cai Lun was a Chinese eunuch and he was the inventor of the paper and paper making process. Even though paper was existed in China before the time of Cai Lun, he took the improvements and consistency of paper making by accumulating necessary new materials into its production. Cai Lun was born in Liang, Hunan. He was appointed for many posts and promoted as well for his better work. Carlson started paper making process in AD 105. That time, the tools and the machinery were cheaper than those of modern times. The influence was very big on China. It enabled China to expand its civilization much faster than it had. During the 17th century, paper-making technique had extended to many nations like Korea, Vietnam, and Japan. Then his techniques extended to the West and other zones. Although the paper was first introduced in Europe in the 12th century. Charles Franklin Kettering. Charles Franklin Kettering is inventor of the electrical ignition system. The electric-driven generator is also the holder of 186 different patents. Kettering graduated from Ohio State University as an engineer and joined the National Cash Register Company in 1909. He left NCR and set up the Dayton Engineering Laboratories Company with businessman Edward A. Deeds, where he invented his most significant engine devices. Kettering's engine-driven generator provided electricity on millions of farms. In 1906, Kettering sold his company to General Motors. At GM, as a head of research, he set up and directed a central research laboratory and stayed for 31 years until his retirement in 1947. He helped develop the lightweight diesel engine that made possible the diesel locomotive, the refrigerant-free four-wheel brakes, and such other items. It was the greatest honor to Charles Franklin Kettering when General Motors Institute was renamed Kettering University in 1998. Douglas Carl Engelbart. Douglas Carl Engelbart was born on 30th January 1925 in Portland, USA. He is an American inventor of the computer mouse and the development of hypertext, networked computers, and precursors to graphical user interface. From the beginning, he was working on the human-computer interaction devices. That's why the result came out in the form of a computer mouse. He is also known as the Internet founder. He has got so many awards till today. In 2000, he was awarded with the National Medal of Technology by the then US President Bill Clinton. In 1997, he was awarded with Lemelson MIT Prize. This is the world's largest single prize for the creations. Thereafter, he received Improvements, Turing Award, Computer History Museum Fellow Award, and many more. The 85th birthday of Douglas Carl Engelbart was celebrated at the Tech Museum of Innovation. In 1988, he opened an institute which deals with the Engelbart's philosophy for boosting collective IQs. Donat Banki. Donat Banki, better known as the Hungarian engineer who invented the carburetor for the stationary engine, was born on 6 June 1859 in a village called Bakr. After graduating from the Budapest University of Technology with economics, Donat Banki worked as an engineer. In collaboration with Janos Sonka, Donat Banki invented the carburetor in 1893. Before the successful development of the carburetor, Donat had also developed the first petrol-driven car in 1896. Later, they developed on it and designed a two-cylinder engine using the new Vic carburetor. Their plan worked successfully and they modeled the carburetor in the process, which was then produced by the Gans and Partner Iron Foundry and Engineering Works under the name of Banki Sonka Motors. Their discovery marked every important landmark in the history of automobiles, triggering the development of many extraordinary automobile parts in later times. This innovative scientist left the world on 1st August 1922. Dr. Dennis Gabor. A British electrical engineer, Dr. Dennis Gabor worked as a scientist in the USA. He was born in Budapest, Hungary, on 5th June 1900. He studied electrical engineering in Budapest and completed his PhD in engineering from Berlin. Dr. Gabor won the 1971 Nobel Prize Award for Physics. He was the 16th Briton to have won the Nobel Prize in Physics. He was famous for his invention in development of the holographic method, that is, three-dimensional photography. He later worked as a research engineer in Germany. He joined the staff of the Imperial College in London in 1949. After his retirement in 1967, he continued connected with the Imperial College as a senior research fellow and became staff scientist of CBS Laboratories, Stamford, Con. Holography was his most important invention. Even after coming of the laser in 1960, the science became fully developed. He died on 9th February 1979. David Alter, a prominent American inventor, doctor, and scientist. David Alter was born in Westmoreland County of Pennsylvania on 3rd December 1807. He did his graduation from the Reformed Medical School in New York City and started his career as a physician and scientist in Elderton, Pennsylvania in the 1830s. He had German and Swiss ancestry. He invented the electric telegraph. 1 year before the popular Morse telegraph was invented. David rigged the telegraph between his house and his barn. During Great Pittsburgh Fire of 1845, he found a slice of melted glass that gave him the idea of the light spectrum. In 1845, he invented and patented a method of manufacturing bromine from salt wells that was highly helpful in the iron industry and was put on display in the World's Fair. Dr. Alter resided in Freeport until his death in 1881. Dmitry Mendeleev. The Russian scholar Dmitry Mendeleev has made notable contributions to the fields of physics and chemistry. This great chemist, born in Siberia, is remembered for his periodic table of chemical elements. He carried out vital research in the fields of geology, meteorology, hydrodynamics, etc. He was one of the pioneers of the Russian Chemical Society and also contributed to the field of agriculture. He also coined chemical concepts such as solutions, which were discovered to be indefinite compounds. The metric system was instituted in Russia for the first time by him. He worked hard in the field of physical chemistry and discovered that liquids expand on heating. His theory was parallel to the law of Gay-Lussac and incorporated the absolute boiling point of a substance. Mendeleev discovered a smokeless powder out of nitrocellulose called pyrocollodion for the Russian Navy. He also initiated the concepts of ether and coronium, which were considered to be elements lighter than hydrogen. Dr. Earl W. Sutherland, an American pharmacologist and biochemist, Dr. Earl W. Sutherland received Nobel Prize for Medicine in 1971. He was a professor of physiology at the Vanderbilt University in the USA. He started his research while studying how the hormone epinephrine signals cells to release more sugar into the blood so that an organism may respond to stress. He invented that epinephrine works by stimulating another chemical messenger to start the sugar releasing process in the cell. He also discovered that the hormones in the human body create another substance recognized as cyclic AMP, which activates them and controls the cells of the body. He demonstrated that changes in the level of cyclic AMP in the body can influence its disease-resisting capacity. This invention opens up new panorama for the development of drugs that can treat diseases which had been regarded as incurable. He was awarded National Medal of Science by President Richard Nixon. Edward Teller. In 1939, physicist Edward Teller was part of the group of scientists that invented the atomic bomb as part of the Manhattan Project. He was the co-founder of Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, where together with Ernest Lawrence, Louis Alvarez and others, he invented the hydrogen bomb in 1951. He received his PhD in physics at the University of Leipzig in Germany. Although his early training was in chemical physics and spectroscopy, yet he had made substantial contributions to such diverse fields as nuclear physics, plasma physics, astrophysics, and statistical mechanics. It was Edward Teller who drove Leo Szilard and Eugene Wigner to meet Albert Einstein, who together would write a letter to President Roosevelt urging him to pursue atomic weapons research before the Nazis did. Teller worked on the Manhattan Project at the Los Alamos National Laboratory and later became the lab's assistant director. Edward Teller published more than a dozen books on subjects ranging from energy policy to defense issues, received numerous awards for his contributions to physics and public life, and had been awarded 23 honorary degrees. Emil Berliner. Emil Berliner was born on 20th May 1851 in Germany. Although he was born in Germany, yet he was an American inventor. He is known for developing the disc record gramophone, that is known phonograph in American English. In 1895, he founded Berliner Gramophone Company in the various cities listed as below: Gramophone Company in London, England, in 1897, Deutsche Grammophon in Hanover, Germany in 1898, and Berliner Gramophone Company of Canada in Montreal in 1899. He took an apprenticeship to become a merchant. This was the family tradition of him, although he was interested to do something new at every time. He also invented the microphones. That time, this was one of the first types of the microphone. This was the enhanced telephone transmitter and patented by the Bell Telephone Company. While later, the patent was affirmed invalid by the United States of Court Appeal. The gramophone was patented in 1887. He passed away on 3rd August 1929. Emil Fischer. Emil Fischer was a German chemist who discovered the phenylhydrazine and the Fischer esterification. He also carried the synthesis of tea, coffee, caffeine, and cocoa. He proved the relation between fructose and glucose. His significant research on sugar included the synthesis of glucosides. He also found out methods to separate amino acids and found out proline and hydroxyproline, which were new types of cyclic amino acids. His research on proteins was also remarkable. He came up with the lock and key model to show the interface between enzymes and substrates. His book on the hydrolysis of casein, published after he had carried out the synthesis of dipeptide and glycine. His most remarkable discovery was the synthesis of mannose, fructose, and glucose from glycerol. Fischer discovered and studied lichens from the Black Forest, which were used in tanning processes. Later, he carried out a research on fats. He was bestowed with the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1902 for his immense contributions to this field. Ernest Bew. Ernest Bew was born on 8 December 1881 in Moscow. He was well known as a French and Russian perfumer. His grandfather was Jean-Joseph Bew, who was related to Napoleon's army as a soldier. Edward Bew was the father of Ernest Bew. Ediodovich was Ernest's older brother, who was involved to A. Raleigh and Co. Finally, he became the deputy administrator and also counted as the member of board. Ernest Bew is well known for creating the Chanel No. 5 and also considered as the best perfumer of the world. Under Joseph Robert, who was the chief perfumer of curious earnest, he tried to make new contacts. In the year 1920, he called a meeting in Cannes, presented his project of Coco Chanel, and named it Chanel No. 5. Yet his discovery had some drawbacks. On 9th June 1961, Beau took his last breath, but his creation still holds a great value. Earl W. Bascom. Earl W. Bascom was an American painter who was born on 19th June 1906. His father was John W. Bascom, who was a deputy sheriff in Utah. Earl had multi-hued family backdrop, having a group nationalities and Moors such as Quaker, Basque, and Huguenot. He completed his graduation from the Brigham Young University. Bascom was well known as the cowboy for his extensive Western experience, professional sector. He rodeoed crosswise the Canadian and American West. The cowboy, Earl W. Bascom, was not only a painter but also was a printmaker, a sculptor, a performer of Canada. In cowboying and rodeoing, he drew his own knowledge with great ability. The side delivery rodeo chute, hornless rodeo saddle, rodeo bareback rigging, rodeo chaps are some of his findings that are felicitated till date. Other than these, Bascom was also a famous Hollywood actor. He was associated with a number of professions as school teacher. He was an artist, a cowboy, an international sculptor. He took his last breath on 28 August 1995 at the age of 85 in California. Edward Branly. Edward Branly was a French inventor, physicist, and also a professor at the Institut Catholique de Paris. He is recognized for his early interest in wireless telegraph and his discovery of the Branly cohere around 1890, which gave him a biggest success. He completed his higher education from École Normale Supérieure. Branly detector consisted of a tube with the coating and filling of iron that cohered when a radio frequency in high voltage was applied to the ends of the tube. He also designed loose metal fillings, which in a normal state have a high electrical resistance. He was nominated for the Nobel Prize for 3 times. And also in 1911, he was elected to the French Academy of Sciences. Again, He was elected to the Pontifical Academy of Sciences. He was also honored by a technical high school. Branly design of radio conduction was named an IEEE milestone in electrical and computing in 2010. Edward Jenner, known as the father of immunology, Edward Jenner was an English scientist. He is known for the invention of smallpox vaccine. Vaccination was a regular exercise, but it could not prevent the disease from occurring. Edward Jenner decided to just add the element of prevention from occurring to the vaccine and used contact with cowpox disease for the purpose. He knew that milkmaids who were in contact with cows were immune to smallpox and contracted with a harmless disease, cowpox, which never affected them in any way. To test his theory, he got pus from a milkmaid's body and inserted it in a small boy's arm and later exposed the boy to smallpox virus, who was found immune. He tested it on several other boys before producing the final results. Though the invention was made in 1796, yet it was only after his death that it was accepted. Edwin Howard Armstrong. Edwin Howard Armstrong is also known as the father of FM. He also invented regenerative circuit. Born on 18th December 1890, he grew up in Yonkers, New York. Edwin was only 11 when the first transatlantic radio transmission was made. This made Armstrong interested in studying radio and building homemade wireless equipment. He invented frequency modulation in the year 1933. This invention of frequency modulation improved the audio signal of radio by controlling the noise caused by electrical equipment and the Earth's atmosphere. Armstrong also invented the regenerative or feedback circuit. It helps by increasing the strength of the radio signal received, and radio broadcasts allowed to have a greater range. He also invented super heterodyne tuner that allowed radios to tune into different radio stations. These inventions are now used by every radio or television set today. Edwin Howard Armstrong died on 31st January 1954. Edwin Hubble. Edwin Hubble, an American astronomer, was born on 20 November 1889 in Marshfield, Missouri, United States. and died on 28 September 1953 in San Marino, California, at 63 years of age. Hubble is known generally for the popular Hubble's law. With the use of Hooker telescope, he discovered cap height variables, a kind of star in various spiral nebulae, which includes the Triangulum and Andromeda Nebula. Edwin also came up with the system for the classification of galaxies, which is most commonly used by grouping them as per their visual aspect in the photographic images. Thus he arranged the various galaxy groups. Later on, they became famous as the Hubble sequence. In the 20th century, he is considered as a leader in observational cosmology. He made the discovery that, besides the Milky Way, there are a number of other galaxies that exist. Eugen Bormann. Eugen Bormann was born on 12 December 1846. He was a famous German chemist. He created polyvinyl chloride, or PVC. Along with his partner Karl Schotten, he was successful in discovering the Schotten-Bormann reaction, a synthesis of amides from amines and acid chloride. He had completed his education in pharmacy from the University of Tübingen. He was later appointed head of the chemistry department in the Institute of Physiology located in Berlin. He died at a young age of 49 on 3rd November 1896. He began his career in physiological chemistry by studying the organosulfur compounds present in the urine and also identified the source of aromatic compounds such as tyrosine. He carried out a synthesis between thioacetals and thioketals. Other scientists popularly use this substance as anesthesia. He had been successful in proving that the thyroid gland has an active indigent called thyroxine. He was one of the most successful and well-known scientists of his time. Ernest Rutherford. The father of nuclear physics, Ernest Rutherford earned recognition in the field of physics and chemistry for his model of an atom and the popular gold foil experiment. He discovered proton and coined the term artificial disintegration, a process by which atomic nucleus was broken down by high-speed alpha particles. Winner of the Nobel Peace Prize in Chemistry in the year 1908, it was Rutherford who gave the term widely used in science, namely alpha, beta and gamma rays. Lord Rutherford Nelson was brought up in New Zealand and went to study at the University of Cambridge in England and performed the experiments after moving to the University of Manchester. He later mentored James Chadwick, who discovered neutron and won the Nobel Prize of Physics in the year 1935. His sudden death at the age of 66 years was a loss to the growing research in the world. He was buried near the Isaac Newton burial in Westminster Abbey for his contribution to science. Federico Faggin. Federico Faggin was born on 1 December 1941. He was an Italian physicist as well as an electrical engineer. He was known for his designing that was related to the first viable microprocessor. He was initiator and CEO of Zilog, the earliest company exclusively committed to microprocessors. He was honored with the National Medal of Technology, the uppermost respect of the United States. It was conferred for achievements associated to technological development in 2010. Federico Faggin has received so many awards, was yet. Some of them are like: in 1988, Marconi International Fellowship Award for his revolutionary help to the completion of the microprocessor, a most important structure block of modern telecommunications. Gold Medal for Science and Technology from the Italian Prime Minister in 1988. In 2011, George R. Stibitz Lifetime Achievement Award by the American Computer Museum for introductory assistance to the development of the current technological world, together with the MOS Silicon Gate technology that led to the awareness of the world's first microprocessor in 1971. Francis Beaufort. Sir Francis Beaufort was born on 24th May 1774 in Navan. Daniel Augustus Beaufort was his father, who was the member of Royal Irish Academy. Till the age 14, Francis spent his days in Ireland and Wales. After finishing his school, he went for higher studies. But afterward, he became amply self-educated to get associated with some of the best scientists. He also get associated with mathematicians such as Herschel, Airy, and Babbage. Francis Beaufort was associated with Britain's Royal Navy and also known as a renowned Irish hydrographer. The Beaufort scale that is used to point towards the force of the wind was formed by Francis Beaufort. He wrote about the Beaufort scale in his journal. Other than this, Beaufort was also engaged with the French Wars of Religion in 1500 Serra. Francis was connected to the Royal Academy, Royal Geographic Society, and Royal Observatory, where he took some managerial action, being a middleman of the scientists of that time. After achieving so much in the year 1857, on 17 December, Beaufort took his last breath at the age of 83 in England. His tomb is still found in the church gardens of St. John in London, where his body is buried. Fyodor Abramovich Blynov. Fyodor Abramovich Blynov, born in Russia, was a famous inventor and engineer. He was born in St. Nicholas village, which falls under Volsky County in Russia. He was well known as the inventor of the world's first tracked vehicles, which are wagons that ran on continuous track instead the conventional wheels in 1877. These tracks were later used widely in a large number of military vehicles, tanks, and for other construction work. After his invention of the first tracked vehicles, he further developed the ideas of building the steam-powered continuous track tractor, which was mainly built for farm usage in 1888. His invention of these running tracks was a boon in the world of vehicles, which saved not only time but also energy. He laid the foundation for the formation of the modernized tractors at that time. He died in 1902 due to bad health, but was surely ahead of technological inventions of his time, laying foundations for tractors. Frederick Gowland Hopkins. Frederick Gowland Hopkins was born on 28 June 1861 at Eastbourne, England. He was a bright schoolboy in several subjects and was given a first class in chemistry in 1874. Later, as a result of an examination at the College of Preceptors, he was given a prize for science. At the early age of 17, when he finally left school, he published a paper in the Entomologist on the bombardier beetle. In 1894, when he was 32 years old, he graduated in medicine and taught for 4 years physiology and toxicology at Guy's Hospital. In 1914, he was elected to the chair of biochemistry at Cambridge University. During all this time, he had to be content with, at first, one small room in the Department of Physiology, and later with accommodation in the Balfour Laboratory. In 1921, he isolated a substance which he named glutathione, which is, he showed, widely distributed in the cells of plants and animals that are rapidly multiplying. Later he proved it to be the tripeptide of glutamic acid, glycine and cysteine. He also discovered xanthine oxidase, a specific enzyme widely distributed in tissues and milk. Hopkins thus returned to the uric acids of his earliest work, a method of determining uric acid in urine, which he first published in 1891. Hopkins died on 16th May 1947 at the age of 86. Galileo Galilei. Galileo Galilei played a vital part in the scientific revolution, for which he received immense admiration. During his college time, Galileo decided to go in the medical field. With strong determination, he got admitted to the University of Pisa to achieve the medical expertise. Almost 2 years later, he started to gain knowledge in mathematics. The major inventions of this great scientist are the improvisation of telescopes and astronomical observation for Copernicanism. Galileo has been globally known as the father of modern observational astronomy, the father of modern science, and the father of modern physics. He also discovered the 4 huge satellites of the planet Jupiter, which was later called the Galilean moon. The work of Galileo also includes applied science and technology, and he also made an improvised military compass and other essential instruments. Galileo thermometer is another one of his unique and noteworthy inventions in the year 1593. Heinrich Altschuler. Heinrich Altschuler was a multifaceted personality because he was a scientist and engineer as well. In Russian Soviet, he was an inventor, a journalist, and a great writer as well. His achievement and imprisonment are 2 contrary points of his life. The main invention he had done is on Tris movement. In 1970, people started inclined to it technically. He was the single intellectual leader that lectured on Tris for the books and articles that are published. Soon after the publication of the books, he became the only founder of the Tris movement, with the government of Russian support for the association. He also made other members, which are good thinkers and close friends of him. Most of the students are influenced by his talks to them and had become the major thinkers who contributed later on the Tris movement. For a very long period, he holds the position of the leadership in the Tris movement. The popular science magazine intervenes him for this achievement. George D. Bodizat. George D. Bodizat was born on 7 June 1882 in St. Petersburg. Between 1905 and 1907, he was in an electrotechnical school. In 1914, he became the director of a polytechnical institute. In 1915, he brought down on the paper standard bombing tables for Air Force. In 1916, he promoted to the chief of the airfield in St. Petersburg. In 1918, he joined the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics. He was hired to build a helicopter in 1021 by the US Army. With US Army organization, he invented a machine called the quadrator, which is then known by D Bodhisat helicopter. He flew a flying machine in 1922, which was the great achievement in the history of aeronautics, though it flew at low altitudes. In 1926, he owned his company of manufacturing industrial fans. In 1936, he got back to the Albert Einstein's relativity theory. After some contribution to the field of physics, he returned to the helicopters in 1938 and died on 1st February 1940. George Eastman. George Eastman was born on 12 July 1854 at Waterville in New York, USA. He was an American modernizer and industrialist who founded the Eastman Kodak Company and made up roll film, serving to get photography to the mainstream. In 1888, roll film was also the source for the creation of motion picture film by the world's earliest filmmakers, Edward Muybridge and Louis Le Prince, and shortly by their supporters Leon Boley, Thomas Edison, the Lumiere brothers, and Georges Méliès. He was chief patron who established the Eastman School of Music and Schools of Dentistry and Drugs at the University of Rochester. In addition, he provided money for clinics in London and further European cities to serve up low-earning residents. The George Eastman House at this time operated as the International Museum of Photography and Film, has been nominated a National Historic Landmark. On 14th March 1932, at the age of 77, he committed suicide. George Harry Hillmere. George Harry Hillmere was born on 22nd May 1936 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He was an American engineer and entrepreneur who was a revolutionary contributor to liquid crystal display. Hillmere joined RCA Laboratories in 1958 in Princeton, New Jersey. In those laboratories, he worked on so many things like parametric enlargement, tunnel diode down converters, millimeter wave generation, ferroelectric thin film devices, organic semiconductors, and electro-optic effects in molecular and liquid crystals. He revealed a number of new electro-optic effects in liquid crystals in 1964 that led to the earliest running liquid crystal displays based on what he called the dynamic scattering mode. Hillmere has received several awards till today. holds 15 patents, and he is a member of the several organizations like National Academy of Engineering, the Defense Science Board, and the National Security Agency Advisory Board. In 2012, the latest award that he received is Charles Stark Draper Prize by National Academy of Engineering. Georgy Beriev. Georgy Beriev established the Soviet Union Beriev Style Agency in the Taganrog that focused on amphibious craft. Of cultural Georgian beginning, his antecedents unsure, and it's not glorious once his name was Russified to Beriev from Beriashvili. After receiving an academic degree upon completion of studies through railway school within Tbilisi, then he went to the School of the Shipbuilding Engineering plus calibrated with engineering degree. Georgy Beriev worked as aircraft architect in the Central Design Agency, where he originated Beriev MBR-2 seaplane. Through October 1934 to 1968, he campaigned Central Design Agency for marine craft in the Taganrog. At that place, he developed number of successful plus radically distinctive amphibious craft designs. During 1947, he was granted Stalin Prize for his function on BE-6. Also, he was twice granted Order of Lenin plus 2 times Order of Red Banner of the Labour. He was granted with USSR State Prize in 1968 for the design of the BE-12. Gerd Binnig. Gerd Binnig is famous physician and inventor and known for the microscopic field of science for scanning tunneling. He worked as an engineer in the IBM company as his first company and later on joins the research group. He is also a Nobel Prize winner for the year of 1986 in physics inventions. Apart from his invention, he also loves to play golf while also a good swimmer. In his working, he won number of prizes which counts for his achievement in the field of German physician prizes. He founded an enterprise in the year 2000, which is now a company as well as institution that uses defensive technology and focuses on the areas of life science. This is important because technology demands the discovery as well as development in the processes of earth science. His technology enables the image classification with more clarification and high speed in the analysis technology for accurate values. Gertrude Bell Elion, an American biochemist and pharmacologist receiver of the 1988 Nobel Prize in Physiology, Gertrude Bell Elion, has made noteworthy contributions to the medical world. Her involvement in cancer research was due to the death of her grandfather to cancer. Along with the research for cancer drugs, she has also been involved in the innovations for drug that would fight herpes and AIDS. She invented the drug that was regarded to be the first treatment for leukemia, named 6-mercaptopurine, in the year 1954. Another major drug that she developed was Imuran, that would assist the body while it accepts new organs during transplantation. She has developed a total of 45 drugs to fight against various diseases, which include malaria, meningitis, and bacterial infections. Even after her retirement in 1983, she supervised the making of the drug azithromycin that would treat AIDS. Indeed, she was a true hero for the medical world. Gregor Johann Mendel. Gregor Johann Mendel was a scientist from Austria who achieved the title of being the founder of genetic science. Mendel propagated that there is a particular kind of pattern that is followed by the pea plants by which they get their inherent characteristics. Later, this theory came to be known as the laws of Mendelian inheritance. It was not before the 20th century that Mendel's work was given its due recognition. It was only after the 20th century that the Mendelian inheritance laws were rediscovered and worked upon, thus forming the foundation of modern genetic science. Mendel was greatly inspired by two of his professors at the University of Olomouc, as well as his monastery colleagues, which drove him to further scrutinize the variation that is seen in plants. His experiments were conducted on the monastery grounds in an experimental garden. Mendel's theory finally took shape after he cultivated around 29,000 pea plants. Hargobind Khurana. Hargobind Khurana was an Indian by birth and an American by domicile. He was awarded Nobel Prize for Medicine with two others in 1968. He was born in Raipur, Punjab. He did his MSc in chemistry from Punjab University and got a doctorate in the subject from Cambridge, where he worked on nucleotides with Dr. Alexander Todd, a Nobel laureate. Thereafter, he carried on his researches into biochemistry at various places in Canada and the USA. The pioneering work he did in deciphering the genetic code and later creating an artificial gene was widely applauded. He was the director of the Institute of Enzyme Research, Wisconsin. He is married to a Swiss wife and has 2 daughters. He won many awards and honors for his achievements, including Padma Vibhushan. He was also a member of the National Academy of Sciences, USA. Hermann Anschutzkampf. Hermann Anschutzkampf was a known German scientist plus inventor of submarine gyrocompasses. He worked really hard in the field of high sea navigations. He mainly focused to keep the reliability of the sea level by measuring the height and depth through his invention of the devices named gyrocompasses. Hermann was obsessed by the coast level that was not accurate to the point what he wants to be. Hence, he started his working in the measuring field. His instruments always kept concentration on high local geographic areas. He found that in the north direction, the air passes fast. Hence, with his teaching and learning, he was able to invent a first gyrocompass that measures the speed of the air in sea level in 1904. This has become the commencement point in the German scientist theory and become maritime innovation invention, renamed in the history by the name of Hermann Anschutzkampf. Howard Aiken. Howard Aiken was born in Hoboken, New Jersey on 8 March 1900. During his schooling period, he began work as a switchboard operator. After the completion of high school in 1918, he received his bachelor's degree from University of Wisconsin. In 1923, he became a professor at the University of Miami. He received his master's in physics from Harvard in 1937. He wanted to build a machine that used parts that had already been invented to save on cost and time. He built the Mark I, first program-controlled calculator the world had, an early form of a digital computer, with Grace Hopper at Harvard. It was controlled by both mechanical and electrical devices. It was slow, requiring 3 to 5 seconds for a multiplication operation. But it was low priced and as per the requirement of that time. Although he continued to build other computers, yet they would soon be made outdated by more advanced electronics. He died on 14th March 1973. Hubert Cecil Booth. Hubert Cecil Booth, born in Gloucester on 4th July 1871, was an English civil engineer and mechanical engineer who, in 1901, invented the vacuum cleaner. This was the very same year that he formed a consultancy for engineering. In the year 1903, he founded the British Vacuum Cleaner Company. Compressed air was used to clean a railway carriage where dust clouds were blown around. After witnessing this, the principle of the vacuum cleaner was conceived by him. At Earl's Court in London, he was commissioned to work on the Ferris wheel in the year 1894. Later on in Paris, Blackpool and Vienna, he continued to work on structures that were very similar. In Scotland, over Lough Tive, the Cornwall Ferry Bridge was all thanks to the genius of Hubert Cecil Booth in the year 1902. When in 1902, at the King Edward VII coronation at Westminster Abbey, the carpets in blue were cleaned by the vacuum machines of Booth. He and the machines received the biggest boost and became very popular. He passed away on 18th January 1955. J. Stuart Blackton. J. Stuart Blackton was the famous film producer of the silent era of Anglo-Americans. He was one of the first filmmakers who used the techniques like stop motion and some animations on the pictures. He is known by the name of the father of American in the field of animations. Hence, this invention gives him an inventor's tag. By a career, he was a reporter and an artist by later in the studio that he ran. He started producing and directing as well. Their first film, known as The Enchanted Drawing, was the world-famous Best Animated Movie. In the early career of his film, he used to sketch like an artist for the pictures of cigars and other snaps for the shots of the film that needed to be taken by the film. This creativity was also highly popular among audience for his work. He also worked for the live motion pictures in his career of film industry. Jagdish Chandra Bose. Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose was well known for the discovery of crescograph, which is the first device to measure growth in plants. Jagdish Chandra Bose was born on 30th November 1858 in Bikrampur, near Dhaka district in Bangladesh. He was an archaeologist, botanist, biologist, science writer, and physicist. He was also known as the father of radio science. In 1904, he received US patent and was the first Indian to achieve it. He contributed a lot to the science of plants. He joined the Presidency College in 1895. He distributed his knowledge and experience without salary just because of his self-respect. The electromagnetic waves were discovered before, but it was very difficult to study them. Bohr's first time brought radio waves to millimeter level and made research of them very easy. In plant research, he discovered that conduction of stimuli is not chemical but electrical in nature. In 1896, he was the first science fiction writer. He passed away on 23rd November 1937. Jacques E. Brandenburger. Jacques E. Brandenburger invented cellophane in 1908. Cellophane was used to forbid stains as well as for different parts of eye shells and gas marks. He was a chemist and textile engineer by profession. He completed his PhD in chemistry from the University of Bern in 1895. After so many years of research and refinements, he designed an automobile to create the transparent sheet. He began the yield of cellophane in the year 1920, merchandising it as industrial purposes. He traded the US rights field to DuPont in 1923. He was inspired to create a durable and water-resistant material after watching a wine stain on a Swiss cafe tablecloth. He was the first person who thought the approximation for a clear, safe bundling layer in the year 1900. He received patents to address the machine and the important belief of his process. He was awarded the Franklin Institute's Elliott Crescent Medal in 1937. James Clerk Maxwell. A Scottish mathematician and physicist, James Clerk Maxwell is well known for inventing the electromagnetic theory. He went to the Edinburgh University, where he discovered photoelasticity before moving to the University of Cambridge. There, he worked under William Hopkins, who was a popular mathematician and geologist in that era. His contribution to science has been immense. The Maxwell-Boltzmann kinetic gas theory gave the basic laws for the thermodynamics. His investigations of color analysis and color photography, which was presented in 1861 lecture in the Royal Institute, won him the Rumford Medal. The year of 1855 saw him commenting on electromagnetism. It was in his book in 1873 named A Treatise on Electricity and Magnetism, in which Maxwell's equations appeared, which further set up the advanced research on the speed of light. His great accomplishments in physics and the precise use of dimensional analysis made him the first ever Cavendish Professor of Physics at the Cambridge. Maxwell was an intellectual human being who wrote poems, which is evident in his biography, The Life of James Clerk Maxwell. James Naismith. James Naismith is called the father of the sport of basketball. He was a Canadian physical instructor and invented the sport in the year 1891. Naismith was born in Ontario and had his education at Presbyterian College and McGill University, Montreal. After his education, he served as a physical instructor at McGill University from 1887 to 1890. While serving at the Springfield College, Massachusetts, he invented the indoor sport of basketball under the guidance of American physical education specialist Luther Halsey Gulick. Naismith devised the formal rules of the game in 1892. According to the formal rules, the court was of unspecified dimensions. A peach basket was installed at the opposite side of the court. Players had to dribble the soccer ball up and down and put the ball in the peach basket to gain points. Hammock-style basket and iron hoops were introduced a year later. A decade later, the open-ended nets were installed that put an end to the practice of manually retrieving the ball. In 1959, Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame was formed, in which he himself was inducted. James Dewey Watson. James Dewey Watson was born in Chicago on 6 April 1928 as the only son of James D. Watson, a businessman, and Jean Mitchell. His father's ancestors were originally of English descent and had lived in the Midwest for several generations. In 1947, he received a BSc degree in zoology. During these years, his boyhood interest in bird watching had matured into a serious desire to learn genetics. This became possible when he received a fellowship for graduate study in zoology at Indiana University in Bloomington, where he received his PhD degree in zoology in 1950. He soon met Crick and discovered their common interest in solving the DNA structure. Their first serious effort in the late autumn of 1951 was unsatisfactory. Their second effort, based upon more experimental evidence and better appreciation of the nucleic acid literature, resulted early in March 1953 in the proposal of the complementary double helical configuration. Jerome Hal Lemelson. Jerome Jerry Hal Lemelson is one of the most prolific inventors of all times. The 605 patents against his name substantiate this fact. Jerry had a passion towards innovation from his childhood. The invention of tongue depressor by him in his childhood is a proof of the fact. Being a postgraduate in aeronautical and industrial engineering, he had a penchant for technology. His first major innovation was the universal robot. He wrote an article named Machine Vision, along with his first patent application in the year 1954. He designed the automated warehousing system, which he later licensed to the Triax Corporation in 1964. Along with these inventions, he made other inventions in the field of cordless telephones, fax machines, camcorders, and so on. Though marred by many litigation and negotiation issues related to patents, he is revered as a champion by the community of independent inventors. The Lemon Son Foundation, founded by his family in the year 1993, is supporting inventions in the US and other countries. Jean Piaget was born on 9th August 1896 in Neuchâtel, Switzerland. Jean Piaget was a precocious child, having published his first article on an albino sparrow at the age of 11. This brief study is considered the beginning of his brilliant scientific career. On Saturday, Jean Piaget worked for free at the Natural History Museum. Jean Piaget attended the University of Neuchâtel, where he studied biology and philosophy. He received his PhD in biology in 1918 at the age of 22. In 1919, Jean Piaget moved to France, where he was invited to work in the laboratory of Alfred Binet, a famous child psychologist who developed standardized intelligence tests for children. Jean Piaget noted that the French children of the same age made mistakes like these tests and concluded that logical thinking develops gradually. The year 1919 was a milestone in his life. Jean Piaget began his experimental studies on the human mind and also started researching on the development of cognitive skills. His knowledge of biology led him to see the cognitive development of a child as a gradual evolution. Jean Piaget died in Geneva in 16 September 1980. Johannes Gutenberg. Johannes Gutenberg was born 1398 in Mainz, Germany. He is credited with the invention of the printing press. His father worked at the Mainz Mint, and Johann used to go with him. He learned tips from jewelers and goldsmiths about how to shape or how to make metal. These tips would later on in life help him with his invention. Johann started by making metal letters with the help of techniques learned from the Mainz mint. He arranged them in a sentence and pressed the pieces of paper against the letters with his hands. But by doing so, ink did not come out evenly. It was much later, with the progress he made, a Latin Bible which was printed. It had been printed from the movable types of metal. Before Gutenberg died, many printing presses were at work making books in all the great cities. Johannes Gutenberg died in Mainz in 1468.
Johannes Kepler. Johannes Kepler was a prominent German astronomer, mathematician, as well as a brilliant astrologer. Kepler had contributed to a great degree in the scientific revolution during the 17th century. He is very famous for the eponymous laws of planetary motion, which had been later codified by many astronomers. His exceptional work endowed a key foundation for Isaac Newton's theory based on the universal gravitation. He also assisted Tycho Brahe, who was a great astronomer. He even taught mathematics in Linz at Austria and played the role of an advisor for General Wallenstein. He had discovered the superior edition of refracting telescope that is known as the Keplerian telescope. This great personality also talked about the telescopic inventions of Galileo. Kepler had initiated the comprehensive research on the optics law. He also focused on chronology, which was about dating all the essential events that took place in the lifetime of Jesus. John Adam Presper. John Adam Presper was born on April 9, 1919, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He was an American electrical engineer and one of the most computer founders. In the company of John Mauchly, he made up the first general-purpose electronic digital computer that is known as ENIAC. John Adam Presper positioned second in the country on the maths section of the college board examination. ENIAC was finished in late 1945 and was made available to the public in February 1946. Eckert and Mauchly started an electronic control company that built the binary automatic computer. This machine stores the data in the magnetic tapes. The electronic control company shortly changed into the Eckert-Mauchly Computer Corporation, and he was awarded with the Howard and Potts Medal in the year 1949 for revolutionary and ongoing contributions in creating, developing, and enhancing the quick electronic digital computer. He was awarded the National Medal of Science in 1968. He passed away on 3rd June 1995. John Bardeen. Born to the son of Dr. Charles R. Bardeen and Althea Harmer, the name of George Bardeen is engraved in golden letters in the history of the Nobel Awards. This extremely talented American physicist and electrical engineer is celebrated as the only person to have won 2 Nobel Prizes in physics, the first among which was awarded to him for being the co-inventor of transistor with William Shockley and Walter Brattain. The great invention of the transistor happened when John Bardeen and Walter Brattain at AT&T's Bell Labs started performing experiments on semiconductive materials. It was then that they noticed that a signal was produced with the help of 2 gold points applied to a crystal of germanium. They developed the theory even further. Ultimately, with the help of William Shockley, he invented the transistor in 1947. John Bardeen had been awarded many prizes for his outstanding contributions in physics throughout his lifetime. John Barber, born in Nottinghamshire in 1734. John Barber was an English inventor and coal master, better known to the world as the inventor of the first gas turbine. He made many discoveries between 1766 and 1792, notable among which was his idea of creating a gas turbine. He took out a patent on that in 1791, where he mentioned how to create a gas turbine with the help of a chain-driven, a combustion chamber, reciprocating gas compressor, and a turbine. In his design, the gas was to be made to be heated in a producer and passed onto a receiver for cooling only, to be compressed and made powerful enough to paddle a wheel. Although his idea was pretty foolproof, yet the lack of technology in contemporary times stopped Barber from realizing his plan successfully. It was developing on this idea of John Barber itself that the modern-day turbine engine was developed. He died in the year of 1801. John Lambert. John Lambert was born on 29th January 1860 in Ohio. He built the first gasoline-powered single-cylinder vehicle. His gasoline-powered vehicle could reach speed as high as 5 miles per hour. Despite the fact that his invention was a huge success, the design of the vehicle was turning out to be a major problem. With 2 wheels in back and 1 in front, the car was not balanced. Lambert improved the design and put 2 wheels both in front and the back of the car. He placed the gasoline-powered single-cylinder engine in this new improved car. But unfortunately, A fire destroyed that car even before it was put to test. Despite this, he is credited with inventing the first gasoline-driven car in the world. John Lambert died in Anderson, Indiana on 20th May 1952. John Logie Baird. John Logie Baird is a well-known name in the world of television, for this Scottish engineer was the first one to have invented the world's first publicly demonstrated television system, as well as the first ever fully electronic color television tube. The son to a clergyman, showed the signs of ingenuity right from his childhood days, when he once rigged up a telephonic exchange just to cure his boredom. His early career was bridled with the uncanny events of the First World War. Soon after its end, John Logie Baird moved to England, and it was there where he devised his first ever practical television system. Its effects had started to show results right from 1924, when he managed to send a few flickering images across a distance. But the real breakthrough came 2 years later, in 1926, when he made his first successful demonstration in front of the most eminent scientists in the world. This great legend passed away on 14th June 1946, leaving us all forever indebted. John von Neumann. John von Neumann was primarily a mathematician and wrote numerous papers on both pure and applied math. He also made important contributions to a number of other fields of inquiry, including quantum physics, economics, and computer science. Von Neumann studied mathematics, physics, and chemistry at German and Swiss universities for several years, finally receiving a PhD in mathematics from the University of Budapest in 1926. While at Los Alamos, von Neumann became impressed with the need to develop computational equipment technology that could carry out the enormously complex mathematical calculations which the then scientists had to carry out by hand. In 1944, von Neumann became involved with efforts to develop computers, most notably ENIAC, which was then the most powerful device under construction. In summary, von Neumann rethought the basic design of the computer into the separate components of arithmetic function, central control, memory, and the input and output devices. Under von Neumann's supervision, a computer with these capabilities was developed at the Institute of Advanced Studies from 1946 to 1951. John Vincent Atanasoff. John Vincent Atanasoff was born on 4th October 1903 in Hamilton, New York. His father was Ivan Atanasoff. John Vincent Atanasoff finished his schooling from Mulberry High School in the year 1925, and hence he composed his bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from the University of Florida. Afterward, he unremitted his studies. In the year 1926, he got his master's degree in mathematics from Iowa State College. The modern digital computer is founded by John Vincent Atanasoff, which is known as Atanasoff-Berry computer. In the past time, the Monroe calculator was in use for computing, and this was the finest device to be had at that time. Then, Atanasoff started researching for a modern and faster computing device. Thus, in the year 1936, he found the analog calculator that was helpful to examine the surface geometry. The modern digital computer is his great invention that has a great use nowadays. He died on 15th June 1995 at the age of 95. Jonas Edward Salk. Jonas Edward Salk was a well-known American medical researcher who is best known for his discovery of first polio vaccine. In the 1950s, polio was considered to be the most frightening disease in the United States, which seemed to create large annual epidemics that killed millions. After being appointed at the School of Medicine at the University of Pittsburgh, Salk began his studies on various types of polioviruses, which he continued for 7 years. His vaccine was tried on 220,000 volunteers with successful results. After the same was declared, he continued his efforts of developing a safe and effective vaccination for polio. He never patented the vaccine, and till date, he is considered the designer of polio vaccine for his significant contributions. He later on found the Salk Institute for Biological Studies, which is currently a center for scientific research in La Jolla, California. Joseph Aspden. Joseph Aspden was a well-known cement manufacturer in Great Britain. On 21st October 1824, he obtained the patent for Portland cement. It derived its name from the best Portland stone, which was a very prestigious material at that time. This product mainly focused on the architectural precast molding and stuccos. A fast-setting low-strength cement was required at that time. The burning temperature was not very high and there was absence of a light. Joseph Aspdin used P9 Carboniferous limestone while making the Portland cement. There was a tough competition of Parker's Roman cement. He used the double burning process. The limestone is burnt at the first stage and then it is mixed with clay. After this, it is slaked and burnt for a second time. He struggled a lot during his career and was forced to make a patent for obtaining limestone. His son William proved to be more innovative and he mixed higher limestone content at a greater temperature. This finally resulted in making the modern Portland cement. Josephine Cochrane. Josephine Cochrane was born on 8th March 1839 in Ashtabula County, Ohio. In 1886, she completed the first practical mechanical dishwasher. Even though a washing machine device was patented already in 1850. She was the very wealthy woman and she organized so many fancy dinner parties. From the beginning, she wanted a machine that may possibly do the better washing of the dishes than any human being does. She made the dishwasher in a few months without taking any help to the others. In a little while, Mrs. Cochrane received orders for her dishwashing machine from many restaurants and hotels in Illinois. After this, she patented her design and went for the invention. In 1893, she displayed her design or invention at the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago and got the uppermost prize for the best mechanical creation, toughness and an adaptation to its line of work. Afterward, she began Garris Cochrane Manufacturing Company. She passed away on 3rd August 1913. Joseph Armand Bombardier. Joseph Armand Bombardier was born on 16th April 1907 in Valcourt, which is in Quebec in Canada. He was a businessman and an inventor. His most famous invention was a snowmobile. His family was large and they were employed in their small shop in a small town of Valcourt. A few members of his family were also farmers. In 1926, he opened a small garage in his hometown. In snow-free seasons, he used to sell gasoline and fix cars. While in snow tinkering seasons, he was working on a snowmobile vehicle. Between 1937 and 1940, there was nothing to cross the heavy snow. He finally showed his design in 1945 that proved a great advantage to the people. In 2000, he was also honored by the Government of Canada with his image on a postage stamp. Somewhere around 2004, Autoroute 55 was named after his name as Autoroute Joseph Armand Bombardier. He died on 18th February 1964. Carl Benz. Carl Benz was born in Germany. When he was only 2 years old, his father met with an accident and was killed in it. He had to lead his childhood in poverty. It was the desire of his mother to impart him good education. Carl Benz was a student of sharp mind. He completed his degree in mechanical engineering from Karlsruhe Polytechnic University. Carl Benz was very imaginative and creative from his childhood. He used to go to school on foot. Later on, his mother managed a bicycle for him. The germs of a horseless cart crept in his mind during his student life. That grew in him in the form of modern automobile. He was the first man of the world who designed and built a vehicle which could run without horses. It could run from an automobile engine. Carl Benz invented a gasoline-fueled car. It was a 3-wheeled car. Later on, he built a 4-wheeled car in 1891. Catherine Burr Blodgett. Catherine Burr Blodgett was the first woman who was granted a PhD from the prestigious University of Cambridge. She was born on 10th January 1898 in Schenectady in New York. After completing her master's degree in 1920, she was hired as a research scientist by the General Electric, where her father was a patent attorney. She was also among the first women to be hired as a scientist in General Electric Laboratory in New York. During her work as a scientist, she, along with Langmuir, worked on monomolecular coatings, which were designed for covering water, metal, and glass surfaces. In 1938, he used those coatings on the glass surface and made the glass 99% non-reflective. Therefore, she was the first to invent a non-reflective glass in the world. These non-reflective coatings are known by the name Langmuir-Blodgett film. She also invented a method of measuring molecular coatings, which were known as color gauge. She passed away on 12th October 1979. Laszlo Biro. Laszlo Biro brought about a revolution in the field of education. He is an inventor of the ballpoint pen. Modern technologies are changing the world all around. But a few like this are really no less than revolutions. He proposed a new design to the pen and brought many changes in the invention. His pens are given a name known as Biro, after his name, because Biro pens are widely referred to be the world's registered trademark for better handwriting. The ease that is provided in a Biro pen is unmatchable. The Department of Intellectual Property keeps an eye on Biro for the right to publication for the pen and also used the trade name of Biro without any copyright buying. This made an issue which led to his depression. The capital letter is the trademark that he decided for ballpoint pens. He worked once again for saving the trademark of his ballpoint pens. This time he succeeded in making a new copyright trademark of his ballpoint pens. Leo Hendrik Baekeland. Leo Hendrik Baekeland, born in Belgium on 14th November 1863, was one of the most revolutionary chemists of all time. Soon after his birth, Leo Hendrik Baekeland immigrated to the United States, where he studied chemistry for some years before inventing two of the most useful things for mankind: the Velox photographic paper and bakelite. It was in 1893 that Baekeland invented Velox, which was the first photographic paper that could be printed in artificial light. The right to Velox was sold by Baekeland to Kodak, who, in turn, used his technology to create photographic cameras with reels. A few years later, in 1987, Leo Hendrik Baekeland invented an inexpensive, versatile, and non-flammable form of plastic and named it bakelite after himself. This synthetic polymer had great utilities, being largely used in the making of jewelry, engine parts, game pieces, and a dozen of other objects. After inventing many other things and setting up a few factories, this talented chemist passed away on 23rd February 1944. Lloyd Groff Copeman. Lloyd Groff Copeman was born on 28 December 1881. He was a creative American inventor who invented the first electric stove and the flexible rubber ice cube tray, among other products. He studied engineering from the former Michigan Agricultural College, now has become Michigan State University, in East Lansing, Michigan. Even if he is not very well known today, he developed many inventions and thoughts that benefited a lot of people. He has almost 700 patents in his name. His first winning patented invention was in 1909. During the year 1918, Koopman established a company whose name was Koopman Laboratories Company. He earned so much money from his inventions. One day, he told his grandson that he could easily find one of his inventions if he could walk to any store. Some of the important patents are thermostat and thermometer, electric switch, toaster, and many more. He passed away on 5th July 1956. Lev Artsimovich. Lev Artsimovich was born on 25th February 1909. He was a famous Soviet physicist. Along with this, he was an academician and renowned member of the Presidium of the Soviet Academy of Sciences. He became the hero of the socialist labor in 1969. His field of work was plasma physics and nuclear fusion. He worked in the Soviet atomic bomb project and was the head of Soviet fusion power program. He was popularly known as the father of the tokamak. This is a special concept for fusion reactor. Under the expert guidance of Lev Artsimovich, a thermonuclear fusion reaction was conducted for the very first time. For 10 years, he was the vice chairman of the Soviet Pugwash Committee. American Academy of Arts and Sciences elected him as the foreign honorary member. A moon crater called Artsimovich was named after this popular scientist. Other than this, he was awarded the Order of Lenin 4 times and the Order of the Red Banner 2 times. He died on 1st March 1973. Louis Braille, a French blind student who made the learning for blinds effective, was born on 4th January 1809. As a student, he studied the books of Valentin Huet, who embossed Latin letters on heavy paper. As this created only small information to be filled in heavy uneven books, Louis Braille took inspiration from the captain of the army, Charles Barbier, who devised a communication system for soldiers. It was still complex for a layman to understand. Therefore, Braille, at the age of 15, set up his own language with uniform codes. The language came to be known as Braille, which is now used for blind persons all through the world by its various adaptations in different languages. Unfortunately, the system of communication was adopted in 1854, 2 years after the demise of Mr. Louis Braille. In his lifetime, he was a professor of history, geometry and algebra, and has been the subject of the works of juvenile literature. He died on 6 January 1852. Louis W. Alvarez. Louis W. Alvarez was an American experimental physicist won Nobel Prize in Physics in the year 1968 for his work, which eventually came to be known as nuclear magnetic resonance. In his early career, he worked in the fields of optics and cosmic rays simultaneously. He co-discovered the east-west effect in cosmic rays and is also responsible for producing the first 198 Hg lamp. Furthermore, he went on to discover the radioactivity of tritium. He also introduced 3 radar systems: microwave early warning system, blind landing system of civilian, as well as military value, and the Eagle High altitude bombing system. His work on the design and construction of the Berkeley 4-foot proton linear accelerator led to the tandem Van de Graaff accelerator, which was developed after Dr. Alvarez had published the suggestion for charge exchange acceleration. He also contributed to the development of large liquid hydrogen bubble chambers and high-speed devices that measure and analyze millions of photographs produced by the bubble chamber complex. Later, he studied cosmic rays using superconducting magnets and balloons. Marcian Edward. Marcian Edward was born on 28 October 1937 in Rochester, New York. He is also one of the main inventors of the microprocessor. Hoff joined Intel in 1967 as an employee, although the whole credit goes to Mr. Federico Faggin to design individually silicon gate design methodology. He did the actual chip design. Marcian Edward came with the idea of using a universal processor rather than a variety of custom designed circuits. He was appointed on the highest position of the Intel company. In 1979, he was awarded by the Franklin Institute Stuart Ballantine Medal, the IEEE Cledo Brunetti Award in 1980, and the Franklin Institute Certificate of Merit in 1996. He was introduced into the Inventors Hall of Fame in 1996 and got the National Medal of Technology and Modernization in 2009 from President Barack Obama. He was made a member of the Computer History Museum in the year 2009. Marie Curie, the winner of Nobel Prize of Physics in the year 1903, along with Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1911. Marie Curie was brought up in Warsaw, Poland. Her forte was not one but multiple fields. Marie Curie coined the term radioactivity and discovered polonium and radium, both of which are isotopes and used in present-day treatment of neoplasm by medical practitioners. Although she shared the Physics Nobel Prize, yet she is still the only woman to receive the 2 greatest awards in the world. An active member in the World War I and post-World War days, Curie developed mobile radiology units for 1,000 soldiers where they could be treated. The Curie Institute in Paris and Warsaw, founded by her, are popular research centers today. Studied in the University of Paris, the year of 2011 was declared as the year of Marie Curie by Poland and France in her honor. Max Planck. Since his birth, Max Planck had a passion for music. There were a number of musical instruments that he seemed to have simply mastered upon. But when it came to choosing a profession, he chose physics and went on to become a leading German theoretical physicist. He got his doctorate of philosophy in 1879 from Munich. The first of his works included studies on thermoelectricity, entropy, and about the theory of diluted solutions. He was the person who originated quantum theory. When he had started his research, one of his professors had told him that there was not much left to discover in physics. So, he dedicated his life into just filling out the holes that were left in between. His work on quantum theory also led to him being awarded with the Nobel Prize in the field of physics in the year 1918. Besides, he also won other accolades that included the coveted Goethe Prize and Copley Medal. Max von Laue. Max von Laue was born on October 9, 1879, at Pfaffendorf, near Koblenz. He was the son of Julius von Laue, an official in the German military administration. At the Protestant school at Strasbourg, he came under the influence of Professor Göring, who introduced him to the exact sciences. In 1898, he left school. For a year, he did his military service. He then went to the University of Strasbourg, where he studied mathematics, physics and chemistry. But soon, he moved to the University of Göttingen, where he worked under Professor W. Voigt and Professor W. Abraham, who greatly influenced him. After obtaining his doctorate at Berlin in 1903, von Laue went for 2 years to the University of Göttingen. In 1905, he was offered post of assistant to Max Planck at the Institute for Theoretical Physics at Berlin. In 1909, he went as private docent to the University of Munich, where he lectured on optics, thermodynamics, and the theory of relativity. In 1912, he became professor of physics at the University of Zurich. In 1951, he was elected director of the Fritz Haber Institute for Physical Chemistry at Berlin-Dahlem. Here, he did much work on X-ray optics in collaboration with Bormann and others. He passed away on 24 April 1960. Michael Faraday. Michael Faraday is remembered for his achievements in the fields of electrochemistry and electromagnetism. This English scientist discovered electrolysis, electromagnetic induction, etc. He had a civil law degree from Oxford University to his credit. His discovery of magnetic field and a direct current conductor is considered very vital in physics. The invention of the electric motor was developed from his discovery of electromagnetic rotary devices. Faraday proved the relation between light rays and magnetism. He also developed the concept of diamagnetism and researched upon the chlorine clathrate hydrate. His Faraday cage effect is vital in the field of static electricity. His discoveries in chemistry included Bunsen burner, benzene, etc. Major terms in chemistry such as ion, cathode, electrode, anode, etc. were coined by him. He was the pioneer chemistry professor in the Royal Institute of Great Britain and served there until his death. The modern-day use of electricity is credited to his discoveries and efforts. Mikhail Timofeyevich Kalashnikov. Mikhail Timofeyevich Kalashnikov was born on 10th November 1919. He was a Russian arms designer who designed various types of small arms. His very famous designs are the AK-47, AKM, and AK-74 assault rifles. Mikhail Kalashnikov was 2 times named as Hero of Socialist Labor. He was awarded an Order of St. Andrew the Protoclet in 1998. On 10th November 2009, Kalashnikov was named a Hero of the Russian Federation. This was the 90th birthday of Mikhail Timofeyevich Kalashnikov. He was offered with a medal by President Dmitry Medvedev, who gave him for creating the brand every Russian is proud of. He also received Lenin Prize, Stalin Prize, State Prize of the Russian Federation, and many more. He also gave so many quotes. One of the famous quotes is, "My work is my life, and my life is my work. I invented this assault so that my country may be safe. Today, I am proud for that." Muhammad ibn Jabir al-Harani al-Batani. Muhammad ibn Jabir al-Harani al-Batani was nicknamed as Albertinius. He was a famous Muslim astronomer, astrologer, and mathematician. He invented a number of trigonometric relations. His greatest achievement was to determine the solar year. He found out that it has 365 days, 5 hours, 46 minutes, and 24 seconds. The new tables of the sun and the moon were compiled by him. He discovered the direction of the sun's apogee. He independently introduced the use of signs in calculation and put a partial effort on the tangents. He had also been successful in calculating the values of equinoxes and the obliquity of the ecliptic. Copernicus, Kepler, and Galileo mentioned him in their works. Kitab az-Zij is his most important work. This work put emphasis on Ptolemy's theory. In this book, he gave the description of a quadrant instrument or the observation tube. His work has been translated in both Spanish and Latin. The moon crater Albertinius was named after him. Neil Arnott. Neil Arnott was a popular Scottish physician. He completed his graduation from the University of Aberdeen. At the age of 19, he was appointed as a full-time working surgeon. He provided his service to the British East India Company and made 2 voyages to China. Within a short period of time, he became well known in his profession and was a founding member of the London University. In 1837, he became the personal physician to the Queen and was elected as the Fellow of the Royal Society shortly. Neil Arnott had a deep love and affection for natural philosophy. In 1832, he invented the waterbed. This was later used as a water-filled chair to treat seasickness. Arnott stove and Arnott ventilator are his 2 most promising inventions. Elements of Physics was an important book by him. He published several other books on physical science and its application. Neil Arnott remained one of the greatest medical persons of his time. Thanks for watching. Do like, share, subscribe to Sahil Book House.